car warmed up?
I think we are.
Thank you for attending today's City Council meeting. Please take a moment to silence your mobile device. If you wish to speak on an agenda item, after the mayor invites public comment, proceed to the podium, state your name and address, and you will be given 5 minutes to speak. A timer can be viewed on the podium screen. You may speak one time per agenda item. Please refrain from clapping after other speakers. Thank you again for joining us today. Let's pause a moment for our television audience to join us.
Good morning and welcome. Glad you could make it out this morning in the kind of freezing temperatures, so it's nice to have everyone here. It looks like a great crowd. We'll jump right in, and this morning we will have an invocation from the Reverend Robert Robinson from the New Salem Missionary Baptist Church. Following that, we will have a Pledge of Allegiance, and we invite you to join us for both of those if you so wish. Reverend Robert Robinson, thank you for being here.
May we pray. Again, as always, our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We praise you for being the God, the creator of the heavens and the earth. Now, Lord, we ask that everything that's been done this day, that you may get the glory, the praise. We ask for directions, guidance, order these men and these women to make proper decisions in your name. And we'll forever give you the praise. We'll give you the glory. In Christ Jesus, we ask it all. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Reverend. We have approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on November 6, 2018. Any changes or corrections? Seeing none, I move that we approve those meeting minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. We have several proclamations and an award to hand out this morning. Shouldn't take more than an hour and a half. So our first proclamation is for Wichita Apprenticeship Week. If we can have the group here for come on up, Tony. You got to lead them. Yeah, as scary as that might be. All right, we have a proclamation from the City of Wichita, founded in 1870. Whereas the City of Wichita recognizes that the economy demands a workforce with post-secondary education credentials and the ability to respond immediately to changing economic business needs. And whereas registered apprenticeship is a vital component of a talent development strategies in many high-demand and high-growth sectors and is recognized as a critical post-secondary education, training, and employment options. And whereas registered apprenticeship programs enhance economic vitality and lead to a stronger economic environment by producing highly skilled and competitive workers, and while providing workers with versatile skills and portable credentials recognized nationally and often globally. And whereas the City of Wichita recognizes the strength and leadership which results from the many sponsors of registered apprenticeship programs, and whereas registered apprentices demonstrate diligence, perseverance, and teamwork each day as they become more knowledgeable, capable, and credentialed members of the workforce. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jeff Longwell, Mayor of the City, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim November 12th through the 16th of 2018 as Wichita Apprenticeship Week, and encourage all citizens to recognize the purpose and value of registered apprenticeship training and the value of its further expansion. And I'll present these. Who would like to share some? He's never going to give up a mic.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a director of apprenticeship and training for the electricians in Wichita. We have about 160 apprentices, and they're all still working today in this cold weather. So thank you again. And
Outstanding.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tony.
All right.
Appreciate you. Quick picture?
Let's do it. Get a little tighter. Come on, he doesn't bite. Not very often. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Hey, thank you. So our next proclamation is for American Education Week. So if I could have Cheryl Logan, the board president. Good morning, Ms. President. Good to have you this morning. A morning wrapped around education. I love it.
Me too.
Proclamation of the City of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas public schools are the backbone of our democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality. And whereas by equipping young Americans with both practical skills and broader intellectual abilities, schools give them hope for and access to a productive future. And whereas education employees, be they substitute educators, custodians, teachers, bus drivers, administrators, or librarians, work tirelessly to serve our children and communities with care and professionalism. And whereas successful public schools are essential to the growth and prosperity of the Wichita community. And whereas the 92 educational facilities of the Wichita Public Schools are vital community centers, bringing together adults and children, educators and volunteers, business leaders and elected officials to empower everyone to dream, believe, and achieve. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Jeff Longwell, the mayor of the city, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim November 12th through 16th of 2018 as the 97th annual observance of American Education Week, and call upon the citizens of Wichita and the surrounding area to recognize the importance of education and those who make it possible. Ms. President, would you like to share some words?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Longwell and City Council members. It's a pleasure to be here to commemorate American Education Week and to shine the spotlight on public education in Wichita. We live in a city that values and supports public education and its kids. Voters passed 2 significant bond issues to improve district facilities because they recognize that Wichita Public Schools is an essential partner in economic and social future of our community. Education equals economic development. There's a saying that it takes a village to raise a child, and every day members of our community volunteer in our schools as tutors, mentors, or just to read a book to a child. That gives them that little extra support that they need to be successful. Wichita Public Schools graduates will be prepared for college and career through a relentless focus of academic rigor, social, emotional, and character development, and strategic community partnerships. Our students have unparalleled opportunities and choices through magnet programs, career and technical education, IB, AVID, Early College Academy, JORTC, and many, many more programs, as well as extracurricular activities. Our district matters to Wichita, and Wichita matters to us. As part of our celebration for American Education Week, we're working again with the Greater Wichita Partnership to provide business and community leaders an opportunity to shadow a principal for a day. I would like to thank Vice Mayor Fry for signing up to be at Wilbur Middle School this week. Thank you. We welcome any of you to join us in this experience, not only in November, but whenever your schedule would allow. We also encourage you to join us this Friday for supporting the annual turkey drive, which benefits the United Methodist Open Door. And finally, we invite you to participate tomorrow in Wichita Public Schools Wednesday. It's a visible sign of the reach and impact of Wichita Public Schools staff, students, graduates, because we all wear our Wichita Public Schools district or school shirts. We will be giving, Susie Finn will be giving council members a shirt today so that you can participate with us tomorrow and hopefully post pictures on social media as a show of support. Again, we thank you very much for celebrating and recognizing American Education Week. Thank you.
glad to hear that the vice mayor volunteered. We were a little worried that someone found out he didn't make the grade in one of his classes and he had to take it over. So our next proclamation is for Public Health Thank You Day. And if we could have Sonia Armbruster and the Coalition of Building the Case for Public Health in Sedgwick County. How well did I do on the name?
You did great.
All right, perfect. All right, we have a proclamation that reads, whereas annually on the Monday before Thanksgiving, public health organizations around the country take time to recognize public health professionals who work tirelessly to promote wellness, prevent disease, and protect the public from health threats. And whereas this year's theme, Public Health is Your Health, reminds everyone in the community that public health initiatives keep them safe on a daily basis. And whereas the Public Health Thank You Day provides community members with an excellent opportunity to make small changes that will have big impacts on their health. And whereas communities can support behavior changes by creating environments that make healthy choices the easy choice through improved access to physical activity, healthy foods, health care, and health education. And whereas this year, as we recognize public health heroes for exemplary efforts in making our community a better place to live, learn, earn, play, and pray, including Councilmember Cindy Claycomb, who has been identified as a public health hero for her exemplary efforts to improve health outcomes. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Jeff Longwell, the mayor of the city of Wichita, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim November 19th, 2018 as Public Health Thank You Day in the city of Wichita, and invite our representative here from the Coalition of Coalitions Building the Case for Public Health in Sedgwick County to come forward for the presentation and this year's awards, and we'll turn the podium over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and esteemed members of the City Council for recognizing National Public Health Thank You Day. My name is Sonia Armbruster, and I'm here representing the Coalition of Coalitions. And just as the name would suggest, this group convenes an umbrella group of coalitions in our community focused on health and advocates who care about health. We act on our mission, building the case for public health in Sedgwick County to improve the health and well-being of our community. Each year, through a rigorous nomination and selection process, the coalition submits nominees to the Board of Health, the Sedgwick County Division of Health, to thank those individuals for their work in promoting the health of the public. Tomorrow, plaques will be bestowed to these recipients at the Board of Health, and we want to thank the City Council and Mayor for recognizing these awardees in this meeting as well. This year's award recipients demonstrate the powerful roles that local government and nonprofit organizations have in creating conditions for our residents to live healthy lives. Our first awardee, and if you'd like to come down, our first award recipient is the Greater Wichita YMCA, focusing just on the work that's happened in the last year, in addition to the many other good works you may be familiar with at our amazing YMCAs. In 2018, the Y has expanded its late night program. With the pressure of drugs, alcohol, gangs, and crime, area teens needed a safe place to go. The Greater Wichita YMCA and the Wichita Police Department created a partnership for a solution. With the goal of offering high school students a place for positive choices, the YMCA's late night program is keeping teens off the streets 50 weeks of the year, every Saturday from 8:30 to 11:30 p.m. at the South Y, and in 2018, the program expanded to the North Branch. After the Y closes, within 30 minutes, it reopens for any high school student, and membership is not required. Safe communities don't happen by accident. Thank you, YMCA, as represented today by Ron McMahon, the CEO and president, for your tireless efforts to keep our city healthy and well. So thank you again, Mr. McMahon, for the work and the many staff at the Greater YMCA. We only have 2 award recipients, and the second is the city's very own Troy Houtman, Director of Park and Recreation, if you want to come on down. Every city needs new and novel approaches to get people to move more and connect, and Open Streets ICT does just that. On Sunday, September 23rd, 4 miles of downtown Douglas Avenue were closed to residents, to traffic, so that residents from across the region could enjoy the fun and shop at the local businesses on Douglas Avenue. This free community building event closed Douglas to car traffic and opened it to biking, walking, dancing, running, and yoga, and even more. So the second annual event doubled its attendance, attracting more than 35,000 residents who were able to slow down and experience Douglas at a much slower pace. Open Streets ICT promotes active transportation, Sunday sales for local businesses, and included the use of promoting the bike share. We welcome the civic and community engagement that this fun event created for Wichita. Transforming downtown into a pedestrian park for a day is no small feat, and we thank you, Troy, and so many city workers for creating these conditions for our residents to live healthy lives. Last but not least, the Coalition is proud to honor 19 public health heroes, and as you already heard, that includes City Councilwoman Dr. Cindy Claycomb and Troy Houtman and so many others, and thank you.
Thank you. And our next proclamation is for Adoption Week. If we can have those with St. Francis Ministries join me up here. Good morning. Good to have you this morning. The proclamation from the City of Wichita reads, whereas the City of Wichita, along with the nation, celebrates National Adoption Week in November, and recognizes the importance of giving children a permanent, safe, and loving family through adoption. And whereas there are children waiting in foster care in the Wichita area who could be adopted if someone wanting to adopt was aware. And whereas adoption brings unique opportunities to forever transform a child's life and enrich the life of the adoptive parents. And whereas St. Francis Ministries will be celebrating National Adoption Day on Saturday, November 17th to complete the adoption of 28 children with 17 families. So now therefore be it resolved that I, Jeff Longwell, City Mayor, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim November 12th through the 18th, 2018 as Adoption Week and urge all Wichitans to wholeheartedly support adoption and recognize there are foster children who long for a forever home. And who would like to share?
Thank you. We appreciate the proclamation. Actually, we're excited to say we have 33 children that will be finalizing adoption with 20 families this weekend at Exploration Place. So we're excited to celebrate them and their forever family. So thank you.
So next we have a special award to give out. If I could have Becky Tuttle and Shelley Pritchard join me. The special award will be presented to Becky through the Community Foundation, and so just so that you know, Becky was awarded $3,000 from the Park Association, all of which she's selflessly donated to the Wichita Parks Foundation. And so Shelley Pritchard is here with the Community Foundation to tell us a little bit about the award and share some more about Shelley.
Thank you so much, Mayor and council members. I am Shelley Pritchard with the Wichita Community Foundation. And many of you know people who like to talk about getting things done, and then there are people like Becky Tuttle who get things done. It is my pleasure today to honor Becky as the recipient of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation National Recreation and Park Association Award for Health Equity. It's quite a mouthful of an award, but it's given to a very deserving person who has done a whole lot of things for Wichita. The Robert Wood Johnson Award is presented annually to a person or team who is working to ensure everyone in the community has access to opportunities to be healthy. The award winner must look beyond just individual projects and kind of one-off things and really look at changing systems to improve health outcomes for the entire community. Becky has worked on so many issues, from tobacco cessation to infant mortality, from healthy eating and physical activity to removing barriers for people in poverty to vote, and so many other things. Every time I see a happy bike rider riding a bike share ICT bike somewhere in Wichita, I think of Becky. At the Community Foundation, we have seen Becky's leadership with the Health and Wellness Coalition. That group meets at our office every month. And the group has really served in an advisory role for us in many grants that we have made in the community to address health and health equity. Becky is always very kind and helpful. She's full of energy and enthusiasm for Wichita, and she really has a true servant heart for our community. So congratulations, Becky.
I just want to say thank you. I'm honored and humbled, as you can imagine, and I especially want to thank Troy Houtman with City of Wichita Park and Rec and his team for nominating me for this award, and also to Mayor Longwell and Philip Brownlee from the Wichita Medical Research, the Medical Society of Sedgwick County for providing letters of support. For everyone in this room, we all want the same thing. We just really want to have a better Wichita and a better Wichita for everyone. And I'm very blessed that my career has focused on health equity and serving the underserved and the historically marginalized. My career has really been about trying to reach out and find people in different places where they are and hopefully bring us all together so that we can have the same outcome. The best part of this award, and I told Troy I would only accept it as I could accept it on behalf of the city of Wichita and our community, is that Troy and I got to go to Indianapolis to the National Recreation and Park Association and took the Wichita flag and accepted the award on behalf of our community. I'll be going to Princeton, New Jersey next month and presenting again about the great work that we do in Wichita and really showing them and telling them our story of success. As I mentioned, I was a member of the Wichita Park Foundation Board and happy to present the honorarium to them so they can continue to do the great work that they do. And let's all keep working together to make Wichita the best city in America. Thank you.
So everyone understands if Councilmember Johnson has to leave abruptly, he's not trying to offend anyone. His wife is ready to give birth at any given moment. So we will happily excuse you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Madam Clerk, you will call the next item, please.
Mary Dean, Decorum and Racism Among the Mayor and City Council Members.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mary Dean. I live at 3327 East Bel Air Court, Wichita, Kansas 67218. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. That quote is from Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. There seems to be all kinds of codes and ordinances on how people attending city council meetings should conduct themselves when it comes to the mayor and city council members, but nothing about how the mayor and city council members should conduct themselves when it comes to people attending. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, decorum means propriety and good taste in conduct or appearance. The conventions of polite behavior. On June 12, 2018, at a city council meeting, there were over 250 people who attended to support McAdams Pool. Children were encouraged to speak because they would be the future leaders in their communities. But instead, they were met with condescending laughter at the youth and speakers. The councilmen were exchanging looks of disgust at speakers, talking among themselves, and people were told not to applaud repeatedly by the mayor. Mayor Longwell even asked attendees in a disdainful tone if we were fans of Councilman Brandon Johnson. And then the bomb was dropped. Bam! Mayor Longwell said that the decision about McAdams Pool was being prolonged indefinitely. The children were devastated and ushered out crying by Cindy Donaldson. There was no decorum at the city council meeting when a man from the College Hill Neighborhood Association took to the podium, turned around and pointed at the majority black attendees and stated, "Those people don't swim," and he'd never seen them at McAdams Park. Attending this meeting were the Wichita Council of Elders and several members of the Wichita Ministerial League. The whole time this man spoke, Mayor Longwell, Councilman Meiser, Bluebog, Norfry recognized the quorum to tell the gentleman that he was out of order in his words. As a matter of fact, based on their silence, he was encouraged to keep speaking his racial vitriol. Where was the quorum on that day? Tuesday, October 23, 2018, city workshop / court hearing / PowerPoint presentation. McAdams Save the Pool Committee had waited for 4.5 months for a decision from the city about funding McAdams Pool. People arrived before 9 a.m. for the 9:30 a.m. workshop to hear those options. But what was presented in the beginning was a plan for an $85 million baseball park with all sorts of bells and whistles. From there, the city's attorney put on a court display disguised as a hearing based on an exotic club to appeal a decision on their license. For 6.5 hours, people had to listen to witnesses, cross-examination by both the city and the defense attorneys concerning vaginas and breasts. Finally, there were closing arguments by the city and the defense. When the pool PowerPoint presentation began after 3 p.m. to discuss options 1, 2, or 3, it was clear, based on an earlier conversation with Robert Layton, that option 3 is where the city wanted to go. McAdams Pool Committee was visibly upset. We felt betrayed and lied to when it came to the promise of $4 million being invested into McAdams Pool instead of the $1.2 million in option 3. During the course of our objection, a WPD officer was dispatched to stand over me to tell me to respect the proceedings or leave. If I refused to leave, I would be arrested. That officer did not repeat the same threat to my McAdams Pool colleagues who were seated right in front of me, expressing their disappointment as I did. Those 2 colleagues were white. I was intentionally racially profiled on Tuesday, October 23, 2018, at a city workshop / court hearing / PowerPoint presentation for exercising my constitutional rights to free speech. The city continues to subsidize urban sprawl, and the poor neighborhoods are paying the price. The city's new investments are going to either downtown or suburbs and more affluent areas. When will the city start investing in the poor areas such as District 1? When investments are done for the whole city, then everyone benefits, not just a few. Thank you. And I'm here to answer any questions, or if you have any concerns about what I just read, I'm standing here to answer that.
Any questions? Don't appear to be any. Thank you. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, next speaker, please.
Beth Diffenbaugh, Saving the Starlight Drive-In.
If I don't look at you, it's because I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just going to read. Thank you for allowing me time to speak with you this morning. I am Beth Diffenbaugh. My father, Jim Quick, and his brother, Gary Quick, were owners and or managers of the Starlight Drive-In for over 40 years. They sold the drive-in to Jim Goebel in 1998 and became all 3 of their legacy, their gift to the people of Wichita. My father had a great passion for the Starlight, and he would certainly have been here now speaking with you, fighting to save the Starlight, but since he passed away in 2015, I'm here speaking for him. I'm far from the only one taking up this cause, though. Hundreds have expressed their feelings on social media. Over 11,000 Wichitans have signed the online petitions, all asking that the Starlight be saved. When I first asked to speak with you, it was because everyone was familiar with the situation, knows that Jim Goebel gifted the Starlight to the current owner in his last will and testament with the clear intent an agreement that measures always be taken to keep it a drive-in. No one denies this point. Interestingly enough, not even the current owner has denied it. I originally intended to urge you to rescind the zoning change that was granted the owner of the Starlight earlier this year. Many Wichitans are very angry about the circumstances surrounding the zoning change. When the current owner of the Starlight represented that change was being requested solely for estate planning, many feel that did not accurately describe their full intent. Over the last few weeks, we have found witnesses information that would easily support the city's decision to rescind the zoning change if later they decide to do so, some of which I have planned to describe today. However, given yesterday's announcement of the good faith gesture that the auction at the Starlight today has been postponed, I want to instead thank the owner, Chuck Buskinski, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, for listening to Wichita's pleas and be willing to look at other sales options. It is clear that we're not out of the woods yet, but Mr. Bubinski willingly postponing the auction is a great step in the right direction. So in the light of this new development, I'd like to use the remainder of my time to explain a couple of the lesser known but very important facts about the Starlight. Leif Jonker is a local filmmaker who started the group Wichita Big Screen. Now with over 2,500 members, I'm going to read you one of his Facebook posts. Why is saving the Starlight so important? Since working to save the Starlight, a member of Wichitans have reached out to me explaining why the drive-ins is truly invaluable and absolutely irreplaceable in their lives. There are way too many stories to tell here, but one very important fact that very few are talking about, the Starlight is an oasis for people with special needs. Around a dozen Wichitans have now shared with me that they have a child, a family member, or a friend with special needs, or that they themselves have a medical condition or a physical impairment that preludes them from a lot of activities others take for granted. Due to situations described, they can't do something simple as taking a family to a restaurant or a bowling alley, to Riverfest, a ball game, or even to an indoor movie. However, they all can go to the Starlight Drive-In. It is not by design, it is just lucky that the nature of a drive-in allows an individual or family to create a space inside or around their car that is safe for special needs child or family member. And for those with mobility issues, they can literally just drive to their seats. These fellow Wichitans can get out of the house, enjoy some movies, get fresh air, generally have fun, and make some memories as a family. And the Starlight makes that impossible. It is so simple, but very, very important. When my friend Aaron Wisdom, whose son Christian has special needs, first contacted me explaining about the lesser-known benefit of the drive-in, it was a light turned on. It instantly made such easy, perfect, wonderful sense. Aaron's son, Christian, loves the Starlight. He thrives there. They go at least 2 or 3 times a month during the summer. Obviously, Aaron is absolutely dreading telling his son that they can no longer go to the Starlight, that it no longer exists. Like so many others, he is praying a way to find it saved. So for those who are confused as to why many of us are fighting so hard to keep this institution alive, I hope I've shown not just because of nostalgia or sentimentally. For here in our hometown and surrounding areas, the Starlight makes life better. I have to say that again. For many, the Starlight makes life better. I think this alone, excellent reason for everyone involved to pull together, make an extra effort, and save our beloved Starlight. Stranger things have happened. It could happen. It could happen. Could happen. It should happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
No, just Beth, thank you for being here today and expressing how important it is. We're working pretty hard behind the scenes to see that it happens. And so,
thank you.
You're one of the catalysts for that, so thank you.
Thank you. I just want to thank every one of you in the city of Wichita community for supporting this. It's just really important.
Thanks,
thank you.
Thank you. And Councilmember Clendon, and thank you. Madam Clerk. Next item, please.
Consent agenda items 1 through 31.
Are there any items that need to be pulled for clarification? Councilmember Claycomb and then Vice Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull item 218.
Item number 218.
Yes.
All right. Vice Mayor?
Yes, sir. I'd like to pull item 216.
216. And after this week, will the Board of Bids be part of our agenda?
Mayor, yes, after this week it will. So I
So
apologize.
I'm going to go ahead and pull the Board of Bids and ask for that to be approved separately. And are you prepared to provide a quick presentation on the Board of Bids?
I believe we are.
Okay. So we have the Board of Bids 216 and 218. Outside of that, I would move that we approve consent agenda items with the exception of those three that were just stated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cast your vote. And motion passes 7-0. Let's start with the Board of Bids, Mr. Manager.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. Hannah Lang, Department of Finance Purchasing Division. Today I present to you the formal bid report from two different Board of Bids that took place prior to Council today for your recommended approval. The first bid that we have is the Rosemarie Part A Neighborhood Water Main Replacement. Recommended award is Mies Construction for $1,322,000. Next bid is repair of the cart path at Auburn Hills Golf Course. Recommended award is Multicon Incorporated for the base bid of $114,000. Next bid is paving Greenridge Road from Harry to Pawnee. Recommended award is deferred to November 19th pending KDOT approval. Next bid is stormwater drain number 441 to serve South Fork Commercial Edition. Recommended it's to be deferred to November 19th Board of Bids. Next bid is 2018 Sanitary Sewer Recon Phase 10. Recommended award to Donlinger & Sons Construction for $79,604. Next bid is 2018 Sanitary Sewer Recon Phase 11. Recommended award is Amigo Excavation and Plumbing for $115,755. Next bid is Manhole Rehab and Recon Project for the 2018 Phase 4. Recommended award is Visual Systems for $40,802. Next bid is paving for Spring Hollow, Carson to serve Clear Ridge Edition. Recommended award is Concept Incorporated for $375,893.50. Next bid is Douglas Avenue Bus Shelter Relocation. Award to Multicon Incorporated for $51,293.09. Next bid is paving for Coalmire Court to serve Edgewater Edition, being awarded to Pearson Construction for $116,286.50. Next bid is four-wheel drive articulated 3-yard wheel loader, being awarded to CSTK for the base bid of $144,927.49 and option 5 of add per each of $14,000. Next bid is the 2018 tree and stump removal. Recommended award for Alfred Superior Tree Service for Groups 1, Groups 7 through 10, Groups 12, Groups 14 through 16, Groups 20 through 22, Groups 25 through 27, Groups 29 through 33, Group 38, Group 39, Group 43, 46, 47, Groups 43 through 55, Groups 57 through 59, Groups 61, 62, 67, and, Group 67 with options 1 through 5. Also recommended award to Arbor Masters Tree Service for Groups 2, 37, 48, 49, 60, 63 through 65, and Group 67, options 1 through 5. And also recommended vendor of S&J Enterprises for Groups 3 through 6, 11, 13, 17, 18, 23, 24, 28, 34 through 36, Groups 40 through 42, Group 44, 45, Group 50 through 52, Group 56, Group 66, and Group 67, options 1 through 5. And those are detailed out in the formal bid report.
What's the total dollar amount for all of the tree removal? Do you know? Do you have that? I can get it later. I just thought it'd be nice for the public to know.
I have it by group. I don't have it by the group totals as far as which ones we're awarding.
Okay.
It is available on the City of Wichita website.
All right, thank you.
The next bid we have is the Chisholm Creek Boardwalk ADA upgrades. Recommended award to the Corey Group LLC for $99,540. Next bid is the on-call security services for Advanced Learning Library for Smart Security Incorporated, being awarded Group 1 base bid of $19.82 per hour. Next bid is the Industrial Pavement Rider Sweeper. Recommended award to Midwest Sweepers for the base bid of $56,875 with options 1, 2, and 3 included. It is recommended that you approve the formal bid report, and with that, I will stand for questions.
Any questions on any of the bid report? If not, I would move that we accept and award the bids as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. So next would be item 2-16.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just believe that this is a capital improvement spending for fire apparatus of about $5.4 million, and I just think it's important that the public knows what we're getting. And there's a couple of interesting items, several needed items, as well as a pilot program that I think the public should be aware of. So I would just like to ask staff if they could just quickly give us a summary of what we're getting and how we'll be better protected.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. I'd ask that you approve the CIP money. The intentions are to purchase 5 different types of vehicles. The first would be the hazmat vehicle. The hazardous materials vehicle is in its design. We did a little different process than what we've ever done before. We engaged both internal and external stakeholders. And the reason I think that's important is because the process was a little bit slower, but extremely beneficial in the fact that it identified some service capability needs that our current deployment doesn't have, and that being a foam trailer, or our capability to distribute foam. And so that is now included in this recommendation that we have in regards to the hazardous materials vehicle. The second vehicle that we're looking at, the intentions that the CIP money would be utilized for is for our heavy rescue unit. And again, our intentions are to utilize that same process that we use with the hazardous materials so we can identify any service or capability gaps. Third apparatus would be an aerial truck. Currently, we have performance measure capabilities that we are not servicing up in the northeast section of the city. And back on September 25th, you as a council approved the acceptance of a SAFER grant so that we can put a 5th aerial truck, our aerial platform truck, up in that area to meet those service capabilities. So that is what the part of the CIP money would be utilized for. And then finally, in an effort to try to be good stewards of the citizens' revenues, we would like to implement a pilot program for 2 new engines through a refurbished program. The refurbished program would actually, the cost of the engines would be 50% of what a brand new engine would be. And their lifespan is, per research, is anywhere from 10 to 11 years, which is about 3 to 4 years less than what the current decision support tool that's been accepted as far as policy. So with that, I entertain any questions, and I hope that you vote favorably for our fire apparatus.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, Chief. I just think it was important to let the public know that we're replacing a hazmat unit that was over 30 years old. That's been a lot of concern, and from what I hear, the fire community. Getting that additional aerial platform in the Northeast is a significant improvement. And then I'm really excited about the pilot program, being able to take better care of our resources and try to save some money a different way is commendable. So thank you for giving us that brief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate the explanation of how we're investing in our fire safety. I would move that we accept that and adopt item 216.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Item 218.
I believe you have a question.
I do. So this is the sale of park property where there has been an encroachment. And I think that encroachment on park property is a slippery slope to sell off park property. In this particular case, I will end up supporting this. However, if you look at, and maybe Director Houtman could address this, but we have hundreds of properties where people have encroached onto park property, correct? Yeah. And so I think this is a slippery slope. We did not want to sell this piece of property. The new owners came to us, and I should say, I know it's not the new owners' fault for this encroachment. They didn't do this. This happened many years ago, and that's why I'll go ahead and support this. But I do want to know, in the contract, there are some fees that the city will pay. For example, if there are closing costs, we'll pay 50% of that. And are we bound by some law to do that?
No, I think that's tradition, though, as I understand it, in terms of the parties splitting.
That would be a negotiated term by Property Management Services, and that can be adjusted from agreement to agreement.
Okay. So that's really my only question. Can we have that contract be that they pay all costs associated with this, that the buyers do?
That's what you would
That's
prefer.
what I will move. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's acceptable. Okay. That's my only question, Mr. Mayor. And I'll make.
I'd like John Philbrick to address that issue.
Have you spoken with the property owner?
I have not about this particular.
John Philbrick, Real Estate Administrator. I'm not sure there'll even be a closing on this one. It'll probably be just, they're going to close on their house, and then we'll just hand them a deed. They've paid for the survey, they're paying for the title work, but the current plans are that it'd just be a deed for a check. There'll be no closing costs.
Okay, but that's not what it says in the contract.
That's our standard language on sales. That's kind of the market standard. It is, you're right, it can be negotiated out.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
So, Councilmember Claycomb, would you like to suggest a substitute just in case there are closing costs instead of going with standard contract?
Yes, I would, Mr. Mayor. So I'd
right.
like to move that we recommend that the City Council approve the real estate purchase agreement with the change that if there are any closing costs, those be absorbed by the buyers, and authorize all necessary signatures.
And I will second that. Councilmember Clendenin, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did get a chance to meet with the buyers of the property, and normally I'm with you, Councilmember Claycomb. I wouldn't support. I know we have a lot of people that encroach on property. For some reason, back, I don't know, 50, 60 years ago, this was a weird case, and our property line goes right through their pool, a building. It's just interesting. So. To me, this is like an exception to the rule, very rare. And I want to make that point clear, as I know you feel the same way. But I do believe that it's warranted in this case, and I appreciate everybody. I know Councilmember Johnson's been working on this hard as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. And unfortunately, it's gone both ways. We've built some of our parks, or at least one of them, out over private property. So Something happened 50 or 60 years ago with the surveying, maybe needed to be adjusted for the spin of the earth or something. So we have a motion and a second to approve the motion that Councilmember Claycomb laid out. Are there any other questions? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
DER 2017-3, Delano Neighborhood Plan.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council. I'm Scott Knable with the Metropolitan Area Planning Department. Item before you today is the Delano Neighborhood Plan, which you've had obviously before you several times and have been deferring as many of the moving parts work themselves out, primarily as it relates with the baseball stadium and what the Delano plan calls the ballpark village, which would be the private development that would support and be located around the new baseball stadium. At this time, the Greater Wichita Partnership is working with the baseball team, with the city, and with the other private developer in the site to fund and develop a what we're calling a ballpark village master plan, which will provide a cohesive vision for that ballpark village and advance the community goals that we all hope to accomplish with the redevelopment of Lawrence Dumont Stadium and other public investments in infrastructure along the river. This plan will involve public input, including from the Delano neighborhood, and we will then incorporate the completion of that ballpark master plan in this Delano neighborhood plan and bring back to you a revised version of that plan for consideration early in 2019. At this time, we recommend that the City Council return the Delano neighborhood plan to the Metropolitan Area Planning Department to commence and continue with this work with the intention of bringing it back for final action in early 2019.
Okay. Any questions? Councilmember Claycomb?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Scott, I think there's been some question from the neighborhood about whether they'll have any, if there'll be any sort of public input into that. Could you address that?
There will be a public engagement process associated with this ballpark village master plan. I don't have the details of exactly what that's going to entail at this point. We're in the process of finalizing the agreement with Goody Clancy as the consultant to prepare this work. And one of their first tasks is to lay out that engagement process. So we should know that here in the next week or two.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions, we'll ask if anyone in the audience would like to address the council on this agenda item. Seeing none, we'll bring the discussion back to the bench, and fairly simple, but I'll turn it over to Councilmember Claycomb and Councilmember Blueball.
Go ahead and take the recommended action to return the Delano Neighborhood Plan 2018 to the Metropolitan Area Planning Department while work is being completed on the Ballpark Village Master Plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cast your vote. And motion passes 6-0. And before we get into 7-0. Thank you, Vice Mayor. All right. He didn't even have to take his shoes off to count. Before we get into
going back to Wilbur tomorrow.
Before we get into new council business, I do want to recognize a group of young people that are going to replace us one day. We have a government class from Mays High School here. If you all could stand quickly. And we appreciate you being here. Great class. Looking forward to you replacing us. And thanks for being here. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Public hearing and request for letter of intent to issue industrial revenue bonds, Air Capital Flight Line, LLC.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Tim Goodpasture with the City's Office of Economic Development, for the record. The item before you today is a request for a letter of intent to issue industrial revenue bonds for Air Capital Flight Line, or ACFL, LLC. Air Capital Flight Line is requesting a letter of intent in an amount not to exceed $18 million to build a new 144,000 square foot manufacturing facility for Spirit Aerosystems on the former Boeing campus. Outlined in red here is the Spirit Aerosystems campus, and on the east side of Oliver, south of 31st Street, outlined in green, is the Air Capital Flight Line facility. Air Capital Flight Line was established in 2014, which is a partnership between Johnny Stevens and Dave Murphin. They acquired the former Boeing facilities located on Oliver, south of 31st Street, which is adjacent to Spirit Aerosystems. As part of the background on this item, Spirit Aerosystems, the city and the county entered into a partnership last year in 2017 to build a 150,000 square foot advanced technology warehouse, which is under construction at this time. At the time, Spirit Aerosystems committed to adding 1,000 new jobs and investing over $400 million in capital investment. Air Capital Flight Line is now committed to building a new 144,000 square foot manufacturing facility to lease to Spirit Aerosystems. Spirit has committed to 320 net new jobs, which is an increase from the agenda report that you received on Thursday. Late Friday, Spirit updated the job commitment from 100 to 320 net new jobs on top of the 1,000 it committed to last year at an average annual wage of $54,500 a year. This is an aerial of the Air Capital Flight Line facility. The two large yellow buildings that are outlined are occupied today by Spirit Aerosystems. North of the large one, you can see what is the proposed building. This area outlined in light yellow, you can see the red outline of what the building would be. Building 118F is a building that Spirit has occupied for some time. It's approximately 250,000 square feet. 56G is a building that the city issued bonds on 2 years ago in 2016. That's 300,000 square feet that Spirit occupies. And then again, you can see where the new building would be north of 56G. This is what 56G looks like. There are certain conditions that are applied to this bond transaction. The abatement is subject to signing a lease with Spirit, and that lease must be for the maturity of the bonds, and should Spirit terminate its lease or fail to achieve the letter of intent benchmarks, the abatement would terminate. The value of the property tax abatement at $18 million being invested in real property improvements being appraised at approximately 80% of that value, since we rarely see 100% dollar for dollar increase in valuation, would be approximately $422,000 a year, or approximately $117,000 for the city. A cost-benefit analysis was completed and updated again since the agenda report that you received on Thursday. The new updated ratio of benefits to costs is 22.45 to 1 for the city overall and 11.22 to 1 for the city's general fund. Therefore, it is the staff recommendation that the City Council close the public hearing, adopt the resolution of intent, and authorize the necessary signatures. A variety of people, including Adam Pogue, Debbie Gann, Chuck Cadena, and Sam Sackett, are here on behalf of the company, although Sam may have had to leave to catch a flight, but the others are here and can answer any questions specific to the company, and I would be happy to answer any questions as well.
Is there any chance we can call Sam back? Are there any questions at this point? We'll go out to the public. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item? Anyone else like to address the? Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, City Council, Mr. City Manager, Jeff Fleur, Greater Wichita Partnership, 501 East Douglas Avenue. We appreciate this opportunity to request your favorable support of this item this morning. This item represents actually two important developments that will further the growth of Wichita and also the region. One is certainly Spirit's continued growth in our community. Last year, as Mr. Goodpasture noted, it was one of several mega projects in the country last year, with 1,000 jobs announced and the $1 billion investment, capital investments in their facility. Today, we see that they continue to grow, which again will help us further the aerospace cluster in Wichita and the region as the air capital of the world, and certainly that is something that we will not give up, but with Spirit's help and others will continue to make sure that it's reinforced as we go forward. Spirit is employing our local community, but also through partnerships with WSU Tech. They are working with Wichita Promise, where they're attracting new talent into Wichita, which is extremely important to grow our economy, is bringing new people into Wichita as well, which reinforces the blueprint for regional economic growth, or BREG. Secondly, through Mr. Murphin and Mr. Stevens' vision, leadership, and investment, we are seeing, once again, Air Capital Flight Line, the former Boeing facility, a vibrant economic center in less than 4 years, or about 4 years, which is a major turnaround for our community and investment as well. So again, we appreciate your support of this item today and for our opportunity to speak in favor of this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. We'll return the discussion back to the bench, and before I hand this over to Councilmember Clendenin, just want to say thank you. This is a good news item. And so thank you to Mr. Pope, to Debbie Gann, to Sam Sackett, and more importantly to Tom Gentile, who fights for Wichita every single day and recognize the value in growing their footprint in Wichita. And we're one of the very few communities in the entire country that require a return on investment. So there are easier places sometimes to deal with, and we recognize that. So we thank you for your investment. And the fact that now you're overachieving and we're going to get a 22.45 to 1 return on investment is incredible. This is what helps a community thrive, grow, be successful, and afford all of those awesome quality of life amenities that we want to continue to build around. So thank you. Tell Tom he has our deepest appreciation, and we truly appreciate you believing in Wichita. So Councilmember Clendenin.
Well, I couldn't have said it much better myself. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Please, to your whole leadership team, send our thanks for the opportunity that you're affording our citizens by operating here. So thank you. That being said, I will move that the City Council close the public hearing, adopt the resolution of intent, and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cast your vote. And motion passes 7-0. Councilmember Johnson hasn't left us yet. Madam Clerk, next item.
Public hearing and issuance of taxable industrial revenue bonds, Spirit Aero Systems, Inc.
Again, Mayor and City Council members, Tim Goodpasture with the City's Office of Economic Development. For the record, the next item before you is also a Spirit Aero Systems item. This is their annual request for a bond issue. Spirit Aero Systems was founded in 2005. That was formerly a division of Boeing. It is a Tier 1 manufacturer of metal and composite aerostructures. It is in the aerospace and advanced manufacturing sectors of the Blueprint for Regional Economic Growth, or BREG. They are located on Oliver, south of 31st Street. You can see here where their campus is. In 2016, the City Council approved a new 5-year letter of intent in an amount not to exceed $280 million for the issuance of industrial revenue bonds. At the time, the company committed to invest over $1 billion in capital investment in Wichita. The current 2018 request is for the issuance of industrial revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $55 million. The investment includes bay upgrades, chillers, cranes, cooling towers, room additions, lighting upgrades, heating installation, road improvements, in addition to other investments. A cost-benefit analysis was conducted by the Center for Economic Development and Business Research at Wichita State, which showed an overall return to the city of Wichita of 5.38 to 1 and 2.60 to 1 for the city's general fund. Therefore, it is the staff's recommendation that the City Council close the public hearing and approve the first reading of the bond ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of documents for the issuance of taxable industrial revenue bonds for Spirit Aerosystems, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $55 million and authorize the necessary signatures. As previously stated, there are representatives from Spirit that are here, and I would be happy to answer any questions as well.
So, just while you're up there, as succinct as possible, share with the community again that this isn't government loaning Spirit $55 million.
That is correct. This is not any City of Wichita dollars that are committed or obligated to this project. This is an investment that the company has already made, and the bonds are being issued to provide a property tax abatement on the improvements as well as a sales tax exemption on the construction materials. There are no City of Wichita dollars committed to this or at risk for this. The company is buying its own bonds, and so there are no City of Wichita dollars involved in this.
And we're happy to quadruple that amount if Spirit wants to make that investment.
Without a doubt.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. And Tim, thank you for explaining that point, and we are thrilled that Spirit is making another large investment. We'll do this all day long, so thank you. So Councilmember Clendon, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you again, Mayor. I think one thing I'd like to add is that when Spirit is investing this much in its property, its equipment, and businesses, that means they're investing in the jobs that go along with all of that as well, employing people here in the city and adding employment. And so there's no better quality of life initiative than giving someone a job. So thank you again. There's not enough thanks. And that being said, I want to move that the City Council close the public hearing and approve the first reading of the bond ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of documents for the issuance of taxable industrial revenue bonds for Spirit Aerosystems, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $55 million and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Authorization of the second 5-year tax exemption, Walton's, Inc.
Mayor and City Council members, Tim Goodpasture with the City's Office of Economic Development. The item before you now is the approval of a second 5-year property tax abatement for Walton's, Inc. Walton's was founded in 1986 and currently occupies 46,000 square feet in Wichita as a result of a 2013 and 2014 expansion. The company is located at 3639 North Comatera. On this aerial here, you can see on the top, running along the north side there is 37th Street. On the left side, you can see Rock Road. That's NetApp, that is the large 3718 North Rock Road facility. And you can see outlined in red and blue the 3639 facility that is occupied by Walton's. The area that has the gray roof is the original building. The area that you can see that has the white roof is the expansion. Walton's is a wholesale supplier for the meat processing industry, and over 77% of its products or services are distributed outside of the state of Kansas. Its products include kitchen accessories and equipment, seasonings, casings, packaging for meat products, grills, smokers, and more. The company acquired a 32,000 square foot building and added 14,000 square feet in 2013, 2014, and invested north of $2.7 million. The aerial on the left is part of the warehouse that you can see, and the picture on the right is the expansion, the 14,000 square feet that was added to the facility at that time. The company was approved for a 57.5% property tax abatement based on capital investment and job creation on a 5+5 year basis. At the time, the company had 19 employees and projected it would add 11 more at an average annual wage of almost $38,000 a year. The company has actually added 12.5 full-time equivalents for a total of 31.5 full-time equivalent jobs at over $39,000 a year. So they've exceeded the job creation and exceeded the wages that they had projected. An updated cost-benefit analysis was conducted by the Center for Economic Development and Business Research at Wichita State, which showed an overall return to the city of 1.88 to 1, 1.84 for the city's general fund, and 1.96 for the city's debt service fund. Therefore, it is the staff recommendation that the City Council approve the second 5-year property tax abatement. Brett Walton, who is the CEO and owner of Walton's, is here and can answer any questions specific to the company, and I would be happy to answer any questions as well.
Any questions at this point? Seeing none, we'll go out to the public. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll bring the discussion back to the bench. And again, this is another good news item because the company's doing exactly what they said they would do. In fact, they've exceeded that. And so we appreciate, again, the investment that they're making in our community and certainly are willing to hold up our end of that agreement. And for that, I will turn this over to Councilmember Meitzner, Commissioner-elect Meitzner.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, your previous comments about our rules about IRBs, what was well stated, and this is an example. Another discipline we put now is 5 year. You know, we could IRB for 10 years, but we do 5 and then review it after 5. And I think that's a good policy, and this one proves again that this company's done great things. 77% of their product is shipped outside of the state of Kansas. So and it's not aviation; it's another industry. It falls into the Breg world. So this is a very pleasing to me that they have done this and they continue to do it, and it shows our region is. Continues to bring new dollars into the state of Kansas, obviously into Wichita and the region, but once again it proves that we're a center of manufacturing and exporting around the world, but exporting outside our state, and this is a really a positive thing, and I want to congratulate the owners and of Walton's and what they do for our city. So with that, I guess I'm going to make a motion. Recommend that the City Council approve the second 5-year exemption.
Second. We have a motion and a second. And well said, Council Member. Any other questions? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Petition to approve a community improvement district for Douglas and Emporia.
Good morning, Mayor, members of City Council. Mark Elder with the Office of Economic Development. The item before you today is a petition to set a public hearing for consideration of a community improvement district at Douglas and Emporia. The district is outlined in red, presented here, and it includes down to include Douglas as well as up to First Street to include the ability to use some of the CID funds to improve Emporia. The petition was received by the developer, and the developer controls about approximately 58% of the property, with the city controlling the east side of Emporia Street, including the parking. Again, CID revenue can be used to improve that parking. This is considered a 92% petition. There is one lot, that 115, that's not highlighted in green, that is owned by a bank. The developer is in the process of negotiating the acquisition of that property, but they did not have control of that in time to have that petition today. Here's a rendering of what the redevelopment of the project would look like by the developer. They're proposing a 4-story building, approximately 3 stories of about 20,000 square feet for office, Class A office, including some speculative office space, as well as ground floor retail that'd be about 10 to 15,000 square feet on the ground floor at the corner of Douglas and Emporia. Here's another image of the building that includes the fact that they're planning on providing rooftop amenities for the building as well. This is just kind of a close-up of the development plan. It shows the property on the east side of Emporia, but we'll get into that in a moment, but it does include the showing how that property will be redeveloped with the building, as well as providing parking for the tenants of that building. The developer's project does include that 4-story Class A building with approximately 40,000 square feet on the upper 2 floors for a new tenant, as well as an additional 20,000 square feet on the 2nd floor for speculative office space, and that 10 to 15,000 square feet of retail. They do plan on redeveloping that space, as well as the area to the north, to provide parking for their tenants, as well as they have put in a request to purchase city-owned property to the east for additional parking. That was outlined in blue on one of those previous slides. In total, they'd be providing about 200 parking spaces in their project. The request today, and again, this is just to set a public hearing to discuss the entire project on December 4th, but the Community Improvement District being requested would be a 2% sales tax for 22 years. 10% of that CID revenue would be dedicated to city improvements in that district, estimated to be about $220,000 based on 10% of the developer's maximum reimbursement of $2.2 million. So their maximum reimbursement of $2.2 does not include the city's 5% admin or the 10% contribution to the district. The additional request that will be heard on the December 4th meeting, but just to kind of provide you additional information about what this project will be doing, the developer will be requesting IRBs for both sales tax exemption and property tax abatement for this project. The sales tax exemption is estimated about $750,000, and the property tax abatement over those 10 years would be approximately $3.2 million. They've also requested again to purchase the city-owned parking lot on the east side of Emporia, but then they will also be requesting additional up to 100 spaces of parking in the previous state office building garage, which is on the south side of Douglas, for additional spaces as needed as they occupy those additional spaces. They've also requested the city to convert Emporia from one-way to two-way in that area. Again, I'll show the boundaries of that CID that we're talking about here that includes Douglas and Emporia, as well as the city's own property and the developer-owned property. A cost-benefit analysis was conducted by Wichita State University, and it indicates that all those returns on investment would be over the 1.3 to 1 ratio. The next steps would be that public hearing on December 4th of this year, where the City Council would be asked at that time to consider the Community Improvement District, which the hearing is being set today, as well as those RBs and the development agreement. The development team is in the audience to answer any questions, as well as I'm available to answer any questions on this project.
Councilmember Blueball.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark, can you clarify? I want to make sure I'm understanding this. Yes, so the developer only owns 58% of the property?
They control 58% of the property that's within the CID, proposed CID. The city owns the rest. Basically, there's about 8% that was not signed, and that's that one parcel that they're working to acquire.
Okay. So what kind of business is going to generate this revenue? I guess I want to know what kind of business that the developer owns will generate this revenue, and what kind of business does the developer not own that will generate this revenue?
Well, the developer will control all of the development that occurs in that area as far as being the owner, but the fact that they're putting that 10 to 15,000 square feet of retail on that first floor is where that revenue is projected to be generated from the CID.
Okay,
so this is kind of, because we're setting the maximum reimbursement, and at this time it's kind of like the most they could generate, but it really is dependent on the kind of tenants they would bring and locate in that first floor before they would know how much they would actually be generating.
So what kind of business would be going in here?
Well, it'd be office on the top 3 floors, but then retail on that first floor. They have office tenant. They have one tenant. Then I can have them come up and talk a little more detail about the project they'd like.
Sure.
Thanks, Mark. Morning, Mayor, members of the council. I'm Kevin Lee with the Polsinelli Law Firm, appearing this morning on behalf of TGC 125 LLC, which is the developer of this project. We do have a tenant. We're not able at this point to disclose who that is. We've had discussions with the city on it and hope to be able to do that at some point in the future, but can't disclose the name of that tenant today.
But it's just a retail business?
The tenant that we're in discussions with would not be for the retail space. The retail on the first floor is speculative at this point, so we don't have users lined up for that specific.
So could it be a restaurant, or?
It could be. It could be retail, restaurant, a commercial use, obviously, that generates sales tax, or we see no benefit from the community improvement district.
Any other questions? We've heard it's been a good corner for a coffee shop. All right. Too soon.
Too soon.
All right. Any other questions? Councilmember Claycomb.
I have a question for staff. So, thank you. If I understand this right, Mark, the city will get a maximum of $220,000 that then will be used to help convert, could be used to help convert Emporia Street to a two-way?
It can be used for that or any other maintenance, repairs, conversions that we want to do within that district.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we know what it would cost to convert Emporia to a two-way?
I've not gotten that number yet. Public Works has been working on that number for us.
Okay, so we don't know if it's a lot more or less?
Correct.
Or we don't even have a sense?
Correct. We can get that number to you to share.
Before December 4th?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I could imagine it'd be incredibly expensive to convert that. I mean, we're not going to build a new road. We're just going to stripe an old road.
Mayor, very similar to St. Francis,
right?
Which did not have substantial expense. I also want to go back to a question asked by Councilmember Bluebaugh regarding the space that would feed the CID. This is very similar to what was done at Spaghetti Works in terms of the speculative retail that was a portion of that project. If you remember, we had an office user that had been announced, and then spec space for the retail, and they've announced to retailers over time, and I don't believe all that space is committed. So we'd be consistent with what was done at Spaghetti Works.
Was there any property with the Spaghetti Works project that wasn't owned by the developer? I guess that's where I'm a little uncomfortable.
Yes, and that's, by the way, that percentage is really misleading because it includes our city parking lot right now, which they'll acquire. So they'll have total control of that. So it's only that one parcel. Thank you, Mark. Go back to the.
Will they potentially have control of that?
115, and yes, they're
by the time
they're in the process of acquiring that property, so they'll be at 100% at that point.
100% for CID.
Yeah.
But if you look at the area in the blue, that's why at this point that's in city's control, but that they'd be acquiring that as part of this project. So it's really just 115 that is the parcel.
I just don't want us to get in a situation where someone else owns property, has a retail business that's contributing to somebody else's.
Right.
And Councilman, the only thing I would add to that point is that property that is currently not signed up for on the petition, it's owned by a bank, so not a sales tax generating business, and this is actually just a lot as well. So there's nothing that would be producing sales tax or subject to tax on that lot there.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll go out to the public. Anyone in the audience like to address the council on this agenda item?
Kathy Camden, District 1. I would just like to kind of agree with Jeff Bluebaugh on some of the concerns as far as the CID goes. I think it has to have 55% owning of, you have to have 55%, you have to own 55%, and then 100% have to, okay. So, I mean, they're just over that, I understand, but my concern is if there's other buildings there that haven't been acquired or properties that may not happen. My other concern is that we're giving out CIDs, it seems, left and right nowadays. And at least this seems like it qualifies for the area. It's in the central business district. But I just feel like we also need to be careful how many of these we are handing out. People don't realize that they're paying more taxes. I guarantee you that there's probably not one single sign
at any CID in the city of Wichita district. In any district that tells you that you're paying more taxes. I know there's supposed to be, I believe there was, back in the day they said there were supposed to be signs on the doors of the retail spaces, but I have yet to see any of those. And I know most people don't understand that. And there's a lot of people coming downtown to shop and to live here, to move down here to spend their money, and they don't realize that they're spending another 2%. And that adds up, especially when you're living downtown or you're coming here frequently. So I just want to just keep that in mind, that we need to let the public know and really include them. And I know this meeting's on December 4th, the public hearing, but I think we really, as the city, we need to explain this to our citizens, and that we are paying a lot more in retail and for rent, whatever, in those areas, because a lot of us don't understand that. That's all.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Seeing none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. And Robert, you want to address that? Because we are required by law to post on the entrance of all businesses that have a CID.
Right, I think it's a good issue for us to review again. We did an audit a few years ago and found some of the businesses were not complying, and we'll go back and do that again.
Okay. Shouldn't be too hard to do an annual audit on something like that.
No.
All right. Good reminder. Again, just a reminder, this is to set the public hearing, which then we will have plenty of opportunity for additional discussion. And I think it sets the table well to have that discussion. But at this point, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Claycomb, the healthiest council member of the bunch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move we accept the petition, adopt the resolution setting a public hearing on December 4th for consideration of the establishment of a community improvement district, and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Hyatt proceeds, Council Districts 1 and 3 plans.
Members, excuse me, I'm sorry, Mayor, members of the council. Back in 2016, City Council sold the Hyatt Hotel for $20 million. Subsequent to that, you allocated $10 million in those proceeds for street improvements in residential areas, another $4 million for a transit sustainability plan, and then about a little over $4 million for other neighborhood plans in the council districts. Today, there are a few changes to the spending plans that have been requested by council members in districts 1 and 3. First has to do with allocating $175,000 to the Wichita Promise program, which is sponsored by WSU Tech. It's to provide training related to the aviation industry. Over 100 residents were recruited out of districts 1 and 3, and funds would be allocated, reallocated in the case of District 1, and new funds allocated in District 3 for this program. Council previously has approved $300,000 for the purchase of a mortgage for the building that houses the Urban League of Kansas. That group has gone through extensive financial review of its operations and has prepared a business plan in conjunction with WSU's Public Policy and Management Center. And as a result of that plan, has asked for a little bit of flexibility and asked for the possibility of using the program funds, $300,000, for new programming instead of the purchase of the building. Right now, it's not clear whether or not that purchase of the mortgage is going to be necessary. But this resolution in front of you would allow the money to go for either of those two purposes, programming or the mortgage. And the last is to actually allocate funds that had been broadly allocated to the 67214 project. Funding would go to a 2019 summer evening recreation program, to Camp Destination Innovation, to the Create campaign, and Atwater Neighborhood Resource Center improvements. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions regarding the allocation of Hyatt funds.
Councilmember Blueball.
Thanks, Mayor. What does $300,000 worth of programming mean? Does that mean salaries? What does that mean exactly?
At this time, it's still in the planning stages, because what they're trying to do is to reinstitute many of the training programs that they had previously offered, but recognize that there's a market niche that they need to fill that would be a little different than what others, such as WSU Tech, are providing, or they would do it in partnership. Councilmember Johnson may be able to answer a little bit more regarding that.
Yeah, so right now, Ms. Adams is the new chair of the board. They're looking at rebranding to Urban League 2.0, and they wanted the flexibility for us to not just purchase the mortgage and be able to run some operational programs. So they've got a few, and they did a perspective that shows that they can, and they're working on those programs right now. So rather than us purchasing that building, it allows them an opportunity to grow.
So do we know this just isn't going to go toward somebody's 6-digit salary or something like that, or?
No, it won't go towards a 6-digit salary. They are looking to get some programs off the ground, so a small portion of it might go to someone who's not making 6 figures, but most of it is sustainable housing or different options they're looking at just to get the program going.
Okay, thanks, Councilman.
Any other questions? Seeing no other questions, we'll go out to the public. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item?
Good morning, Mayor and City Council members. Christina Long, 3649 Rushwood Court, President, CEO of Create Campaign. I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank you all for considering this agenda item. As we look at Wichita reclaiming its entrepreneurial spirit, as we saw even in this council meeting today with Spirit's Conversation, being able to have the support of the City Council for inclusive entrepreneurship to make these types of activities more accessible for all in our community is very commendable. So I'd like to thank you, Councilmember Johnson, and all of you for being leaders in that area, and thank you for your time today.
Christina, you have plenty of burdens in your household now, so any support we can give you, we're going to.
I'll make sure to let Jonathan know. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marquita Atkins, and I'm the founder of Camp Destination Innovation. One of the things you'll always hear me say is our youth is the best investment we can make when it yields the best returns. I thank you and I appreciate you guys for investing in the youth of Camp Destination Innovation. We have big things coming this summer and looking at doing a year-round program. So any investment you can make in these youth is priceless. I appreciate you all and I thank you again for taking the time to even consider it. Have a good day.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Seeing none, we'll return the discussion to the bench. Does this complete all of the Hyatt proceeds? Is there more?
Mayor, I believe we've completed every district except District 3. There's still some funds available in District 3.
Okay. So at this point, I'll turn this over. Oh, Councilmember Clayco.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I have one more question I think Councilmember Johnson could help a little bit with. So in the agenda report, it says it's possible the Urban League could relocate its operations and then they would want to use this for programming. So has that already been decided?
No, they are in the process of negotiating with a prospective buyer for that property, and if they get that and they relocate, then they would rather have this go for programming rather than mortgage.
So would it be possible that they'd come back and say that they need to purchase the building and we'd reallocate it back to the original? I'm just trying to figure out if we're ahead of where we need to be, or this is really the path they're going to go. They're going to use it for programming.
I believe they're going to use it for programming.
Okay.
We've had conversations with the new chair about some programming opportunities. And we've kind of said the programming is where we'd like to go.
Okay, thank you.
One thing I would encourage is that we get relatively regular updates on where this money's going to be spent, and especially if it goes to programming, what that looks like. And I agree with Councilmember Blueball. I mean, we're not in the business of giving people 6-figure salaries, and hopefully that's not the case here. But a regular update on where these dollars are going would be much appreciated, because it has been a struggle to get to this point. Councilmember Clendenin.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't want to gloss over the Wichita Promise portion of this. This is, we were approached by some great people over at WSU Tech, and the money that we're using in the Wichita Promise part of this agenda item today is directly going to train people in Districts 1 and 3 for jobs that are high-skilled technical jobs in the aircraft industry, hopefully filling some of those 1,000 Spirit jobs that they're having a difficulty filling. And it's direct money training people. Hopefully, the idea was to lift people out of poverty, even in a situation where they just have no hope of ever being able to afford this type of training. And so this has really been great. There's still money left over for training. And so if anybody in the public is listening and you know someone that needs a job or needs training in this field, please contact us, contact Wichita Promise, contact WSU Tech, and we have some training money available. So this is great. Thank you.
Outstanding. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to piggyback off of what Councilmember Clendenin just said, there's also opportunities for those who may have a felony. You may not be able to work at Spirit, but there are folks within the supply chain that are hiring. So please apply. There's still money left, and there's opportunity for you.
So I'll turn it over to both of you to make a motion for these proceeds.
Mayor, I'm going to hand it over to Councilmember Johnson. He has more money at stake here.
Thank you, Councilmember. Well, I am excited to make this motion today. There's a lot of great opportunity that can come from these possible investments. So with that, I would recommend, or I make the motion that we approve the community improvement projects in City Council Districts 1 and 3 and adopt the ordinance authorizing the use of Hyatt Regency Wichita Hotel sale proceeds.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Wichita Municipal Court Record Management System.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Nathan Emery, Court Administrator. I'm here to request approval of the purchase of a record management system and the contract that has been negotiated with Pioneer Technology Group. Currently, the municipal court, city prosecutors, and the Wichita Police Department share a record management system. As you're aware, the police department has already contracted for a new case management system. Our case management system is at its end of life and is unsupported. Acquiring a modern system will position the court to continue to provide excellent service to the community. This will reduce the need for workarounds, streamline procedures, automate manual repetitive activities, and flatten information sharing between stakeholders. Benchmark's integrated case and records management system has built-in imaging that allows case records to be accessed directly from the case management system. Additionally, it contains probation and law features that would make it so we don't have to purchase separate systems for those entities. Additionally, it will eliminate the need for two large access databases and multiple Excel sheets that are currently maintained due to the limitations of our current system. With increased stakeholder access, judges will have the ability to be mobile. City public defenders and local attorneys will be able to access and submit necessary documents for cases. Clients will be able to create logins and have real-time access to their case information, status of diversion application, pending court dates, and more. Because it's paperless, Benchmark has well-defined processes already built in and is adaptable to the court's needs. Documents can be emailed to defendants, attorneys, and pertinent parties with read receipts and further confirmation of the receipt. Judges will have can have a touchscreen product in court built in that allows them to have all case information at their fingertips. This will allow, will eliminate lost and shuffled cases. Dashboards will allow users to customize and remove information not pertinent to them, and they will be allowed to see what tasks they have pending, approaching, or outstanding. User-generated reports will allow individual users to get information without pushing requests to staff, and we will, through workflow automation, be able to remove a lot of tedious tasks that the current system forces us to engage. It'll reduce human error and allow faster workflows throughout the court. As outlined on the agenda report, our process for making the selection included a request for proposals, evaluation, and on-site product demonstrations. We narrowed the finalists down to the top 3, and ultimately the selection committee identified and selected Pioneer Technology Group as the vendor of choice. The project team anticipates that from kickoff to go live, the project will take approximately 18 months. Contingent upon approval of the contract, we plan to kick off the project in January or February of 2019 with a tentative go live of June of 2020. In addition to this, we are working to deconflict resources and coordinate go live with police and other pertinent stakeholder entities. The total project costs amount to about $1.2 million, with approximately $1 million under the negotiated contract with Tyler Technology Group for software licenses and implementation services. Additionally, IT infrastructure improvements and implementation costs of $142,000 are needed to create an environment for the software to operate in. Due to the large scope of the project, we built in a contingency of roughly 15% of the project costs for situations that may arise during implementation that cannot be foreseen. Due to the expansive scope of this project, we also are requesting change order authority that will allow us to proceed with individual change orders up to $5,000 without returning to the City Council for approval. Proposed funding for this project includes resources from our software replacement funds, bond forfeiture funds, and court technology funds. $296,740 have been set aside in the software replacement fund over the years for the replacement of the current software or court record management system. Once we have the new system in place, we'll begin to replenish those replacement funds. I believe that this product will make the court better able to pursue the mission of living well and keep Wichita safe. As a reminder, in the audience today are some of my staff who've been involved. In addition to myself, we will all be available to answer any questions you may have. We recommend that the City Council approve the selection of the recommended firm and the related contract with Pioneer Technology Group and approve change order authority, adopt the resolution, and authorize the necessary signatures. Will be available for any questions that you may have.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. The green sheet didn't reference the change order authority, so it's kind of a new one for me. Would that 5,000 limit, does that entirely eat up the 163 contingency? Could that be possible? Is that what we're saying, that by allowing those change orders to happen?
Yeah, that's my question too, Vice Mayor. Why don't we just make the contingency $5,000 more? Aren't you going to pull it from the contingency first if there's issues involving change orders?
Yeah, I believe that it would all, the change orders would come to.
Why not just increase the contingency fund?
Or do the change orders come out of the contingency fund? And so you're actually talking about 5,000 divided by 163. You're looking at a bunch of different change orders. Could max it out, is what you're saying.
I believe that's correct.
That is correct.
Okay. Is that standard for us? Have we done that
Has
before?
been. We're in the process of doing something similar to that with the HR and finance system There can be a number of changes during implementation, and it can be pretty burdensome, to bring those back over and over again.
Right, and I get that. I guess I'm just concerned that if we start doing that frequently, and all of a sudden we've maxed out the contingency because we've had so many change orders, did we really have our arms around this? I mean, I guess maybe if there's a way to do a check and a balance, like if we reach a point where, we've done this up to 50,000, okay. And then maybe if there's another threshold that you update us. I guess I'm just asking for some kind of check on us so we know what we're doing.
Right. I would ask for a little higher threshold than 50,000, only for a records management system. This is our third project.
Right.
Private sector has the same kind of problems that we do in implementation. It's not uncommon to see contingency of that nature get eaten up. So I would if we could go a little higher, whatever the council's comfortable with, and no problem then. And we can also bring periodic reports back to you.
And maybe that's all I need is just some kind of...
Robert, don't you already have authority to spend up to X amount?
Well, council, yes, but the council has, what we're trying to do is go higher than what the council's normal change order requirement is.
Isn't that 50,000?
No, that's my contractual authority for a single contract, but we have a different policy for
change orders?
Change orders, yes.
Okay, and I totally understand you guys are working with an archaic system that's needed to be updated for several years. So I understand the pain you're dealing with. I just want to make sure that we understand where we're at through this process, and I would hate that we ended up having to use all 163,000 contingency. Maybe if it was, I don't know what a good number is. Maybe you have a suggestion. If you say 50,000 is too little, is 75 and we split the difference, or 80 or something?
Sure. We could do 75, and then also, or we could do the 50 if that's where you want to be, but then or we could report to you everything above 50,000, so we don't have to bring it back for a change order. It's really up to you how you want to go.
Okay. I like that option, I suppose. That's probably, I saw a couple other people shake their heads, yes.
Okay.
I could live with that.
All right, so once we hit the 50,000, then everything above that will report to you when we're on a regular basis, what we're doing on change orders.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then one other quick question, and I appreciate we're trying to go paperless as much as possible. Do we have any projected savings by being able to go to the paperless environment? Do we know what that impact might be? Is it too soon?
Paperless is a bit of a misnomer in my experience. What it does is it allows you to have different workflows and allow you to have people be able to access the actual records from alternate sites. Sometimes you end up printing more because that thing you print isn't the original, and you end up handing that out. So there aren't projections right now, okay. But what it does is it potentially, if we're able to use email and text and provide those documents in that manner, that's where the real paperless savings would go as far as reducing paper.
Okay. And then my last question, we have recently approved some significant upgrades in software for police and police records. I would have thought maybe this would have been just an addendum onto that, or an addition to that. I'm sure you're going to tell me it marries well with that old system, or the new system we bought, right?
Contractually, the companies will be building interfaces to allow them to communicate. And we're doing a lot of coordination with all of those organizations to make sure we identify, especially as we move from a shared environment to two separate environments, who needs to own certain things, how do we access, how do we change the information within those and create rules. So there's a lot of coordination efforts going into place right now.
But that new system, which was, remind us, 3 million? I mean, it was a lot. Did they not have a component that did this, that we could just add on to without building these bridges?
Not with the features that are necessary for our system, for our judges, for our staff, and for our users.
Okay. We'll go out to the public. Anyone in the public like to address the council on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. And there's a lot of conversation. Do we need to alter this motion to address the changeover status?
Mayor, I don't think that's necessary. I believe the motion can be as the recommended action reads.
Okay. So if there's no other discussion, the recommended action is simply to approve the contract with Pioneer Technology Group and authorize the necessary signature, which includes what was discussed in terms of the amount up to $50,000 in change orders, correct?
It's $5,000.
$5,000. Okay, $5,000 in change orders. So it's just basically adding $5,000 to the contingency? No, it's $5,000 out of the contingency. All right. Clear as mud.
That's your motion?
Somewhere in there was a great motion.
Then I'll have a great second.
All right. We sort of had a motion in a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. Motion sort of passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Substantial amendment to the 2018-2019 Annual Action Plan.
Good morning, Mayor, members of the council. Mark Stanberry for the Housing and Community Services Department. This morning, we will ask you to open a 30-day comment period for a substantial amendment to the city's 2018-2019 Annual Action Plan for the Federal Entitlement Program. We will return on December 18th in order to seek your approval once the public has had an opportunity to provide comment. Some brief background. The city receives an annual allocation of funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. We use that funding to align with the city's goal of creating a livable and sustainable community. The components of our entitlement grant program include the Community Development Block Grant Program, the Home Investment Partnerships Program, and also the Emergency Solutions Grant Program. CDBG funding projects must meet a national objective, and they also must be used for eligible spending activities, and not less than 70% of all spending must benefit low to moderate income persons. Our 2018-19 allocation for the CDBG program was $2.8 million. We previously approved a plan which allocates $4.7 million for eligible activities during the program year. And this amount included, over and above the base grant amount, $380,500 from previous year resources, and also $1.6 million from Section 108 loan repayments. New projects we have are a realignment of the housing activities within our plan. First, we have relocation expenses subject to the Uniform Relocation Act in the amount of $1.5 million, and also public housing rehabilitation activities for approximately $1.1 million. For the relocation, these are temporary relocation expenses involved with the Wichita Housing Authority's Rental Assistance Demonstration Project, and also CDBG funded projects that are subject to URA requirements. Expenses associated with the rehabilitation of the Greenway Manor and McLean Manor elevators are included here so that they can be addressed prior to implementation of the RAD rehabilitation project. The elevators are troublesome, cause delays for tenants, sometimes causing them to get stuck between floors and so forth. So we'd like to proceed with the rehabilitation of the elevators as soon as we can. The additional funding sources for the new projects are coming from a reduction of the acquisition and development activity of $100,000. This will leave approximately $100,000 for that activity that was previously approved. Also from the revolving loan fund, $550,000, and also recaptured funds from projects that are not going forward. In the agenda report, we mentioned the Mount Vernon bike path street improvement project, and also a crosswalk, signal crosswalk for 9th and McLean. Also, we have projected program income for $150,000 that's included in this. Second component of our substantial amendment is for the home program. When the funding was approved for the home program as part of the annual action plan, only one CHODO was allocated funding, Community Housing Development Organization, that was Power CDC. The Grant Review Committee recommended only funding Power CDC at that time until other organizations could step forward with projects and have buyers identified for single-family housing projects. We do have that at this point. Mennonite Housing has stepped forward requesting $186,000. This will allow them to construct 3 single-family homes. We'll also satisfy our minimum CHODO set-aside requirement for the home program, which is 15%. And then the balance of the previously reserved funding for CHODO set aside, it's about $56,000. We would move to the Housing Development Loan Program, which would be used to fund similar activities for organizations that would include CHODOs and also other developers. Again, today we are asking you to open the required 30-day public comment period for the substantial amendment to the 2018-2019 annual action plan, and we'll return December the 18th for your approval of the actual funding allocations. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark, real quick, with the public outreach, will we only have a paper document at Atwater, or will there be any other type of public outreach at the neighborhood resource centers?
We would have a paper document there. We'll also have the plan available on the city website as well.
Okay, so we'll just point people to the website, those who come up and kind of ask, and we give them that document?
Yes, yes. They could do that as well, or actually look at the paper document if they like.
Another suggestion might be that we could run some kind of periodic programming on our Channel 7 when we do things like this. That would...
Okay, very good.
I mean, you can, obviously, when you're talking about disseminating information and asking for public feedback, I don't know that you could ever go overboard on that.
Certainly.
So if there's no other questions, we'll go out to the public. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. And again, today's action just opens up the 30-day public review. And if there's no questions, I would move the City Council open the required 30-day public review and comment period for the substantial amendment to the 2018-2019 annual action plan. And not a part of the motion, but would encourage us to disseminate information in a wide variety of ways.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
U.S. Department of Justice 2018 Supporting Innovation Field Initiative Programs to Improve Officers and Public Safety Grant.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice, City Council members. Today I'll be speaking on the 2018 Supporting Innovation Field Initiatives Program to Improve Officer and Public Safety Grant. Basically, back in July, the DOJ, or the Department of Justice, announced this grant with a very short turnaround time of nearly like 30 days or less. It was a very competitive grant with only 13 awards with a maximum of $500,000 with no match required. So we scrambled to put together the grant. We thought that PD was doing some very innovative things and had the potential to do more innovative things with the funding. One of the things we decided to pursue was a cost-effective shot detection technology development with a city IT partnership and launch Operation Save a Casing. What Operation Save a Casing is, it's a program where we're going to encourage gun owners to save 2 casings per firearm. Currently, we have no way of tying a stolen firearm to a violent crime. Operation Save a Casing will be able to give us first shot at any evidence from the theft. We'll be able to run DNA, fingerprints, or any video evidence and be able to trace that firearm from the theft to when it's used in a violent crime. We would be the first city in the country to do that, and it is generating a lot of interest amongst the law enforcement community nationwide. So we expect to see a lot more of that. And also the funding would allow us to employ a full-time service officer to handle the additional casing evidence. Basically, the budget breaks down in the following. Wichita State is also a partner here, and we would ask that you approve the award, and I'm here to take any questions that you might have.
Questions at this point? Seeing none, we'll go out to the public. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll bring discussion. Yes?
So I read over, I was really excited. I was very happy to see that Chief Ramsey applied for this, or the police department, because as I have been here and many people have been here, you know, we've had some issues and with transparency and things that we'd like to see, and we keep being told that we're going to have training in the police department. So when I saw that we just got awarded a $493,000 training grant, I kind of was hoping we'd have more training in there. I don't know if that is the $493,000, is the 3 things that it has been allotted to, is that set in stone?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because it's a 19-page grant award, and I tried reading through it, and I didn't see what the money was going through, so I was really hopeful today to see that it was going to go towards training, maybe some officer training and not necessarily save a casing, but anyway, that's what I wanted to know, if it was just for those 3 things only, if it was negotiable. Thank you.
And Mr. Manager, training's come up multiple times and we've never really addressed it. I know you've done some research in the past on training, and we never did share your research with the public. There was an argument at one time that we were only spending $80,000 a year on training. Give us some idea of what we spend on training annually.
I don't have it at the tip, at my fingertips right now, but if you'd like, Mayor, I can bring that back to a subsequent meeting. We can talk about that.
So why don't you put that on the agenda? Okay. We keep glossing over that.
All right.
And I know you don't have it at your fingertips, right, but it's in the ballpark of $2 million a year. Let's have a discussion about that so that we can clear up some of those misconceptions in the community. And so we will, any other speakers? We'll bring the discussion back to the bench. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, a real quick question for staff. The $150,000 for research and development for this shot spotter technology, that just gets us the product developed. It doesn't install it here, correct? That would be a separate price later down the line?
Basically, it's it'll be in the development of the technology, but it would install a certain quantity, hopefully in the hot spots with that budget.
So this grant would cover that cost?
Basically, if we identify the areas, I think it would.
Okay.
Yes, it'll cover the cost for the pilot project and the analysis of the pilot.
Okay.
But it would be substantially less than ShotSpotter.
I understand. I was using that as just a
topic
Yes.
definition.
And Mr. Mayor, if I can address the training from DOJ, they have provided training for staff on de-escalation already, and we're getting ready to launch that department-wide shortly.
Very good. Thank you. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Deputy Chief, I just wanted to say thank you as well for applying for the grant. With the number of gun thefts we've seen from vehicles and things that we've seen here in Wichita over the last year, I think this is a great opportunity to try to catch some of those folks who've taken those guns and maybe get those guns returned to their owners. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I appreciate it.
Any other comments? If not, I'm going to move that the City Council approve the 2018 Supporting Innovation Field Initiated Programs to Improve Officer and Public Safety and award and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Amendment to ordinance pertaining to date of selection of vice mayor.
So this is relatively simple. You're going to give us, thank you for that presentation.
I'll try to keep it that simple. Just briefly, Mayor and Council, by city ordinance, you select the vice mayor annually for one-year terms. And the ordinance also provides that currently you're conducting this selection process at a special meeting on the second Monday of January. It has been done at that special meeting when new council members are sworn in. Under a proposed change under this item, if the ordinance is approved, the selection of the vice mayor would then occur during regular council meetings on the second Tuesday of each year. All other provisions of the ordinance would remain the same. And the city does have discretion on when to select its vice mayor, so I am available for questions about this proposed ordinance change.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll go out to community. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll bring the discussion back to the bench. And again, this is was a little bit complicated this year because of some potential travel at that time of year, and it just seems we shouldn't make it overly difficult in the process, and so it's just simplifying that so that we're not calling a special meeting.
That depends on if you're sick and miss the meeting again.
That means you could be vice mayor again if you miss. That could be your penalty. So if there's no other questions or concerns, I move the City Council place the ordinance on first reading and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. The motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Option to ground lease Wichita Red Single Family LP.
Mayor, council members, once again, Mark Stanberry for the Housing Community Services Department. As you know, the City of Wichita Housing Authority was accepted into the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Rental Assistance Demonstration pilot program in September of 2017, and in March of 2018, KBK Enterprises was selected as the master developer. Currently, KBK is in the process of preparing a housing tax credit application to be submitted to the State of Kansas Housing Resources Corporation this month. The Kansas Housing Resources Corporation administers the housing tax credit program. Further, the board will consider the overall RAD financial plan during a December council meeting. Pre-development activities have been performed to ascertain the amount and scope of rehabilitation needed for the Housing Authority's 352 single-family units. It is estimated that the hard costs needed for these units will be $29 million. Tax credit funds will be used to generate capital for financing of the rehabilitation expenses. The Kansas Housing Resources Corporation requires an option for ground lease structure for the participating entity. Just briefly on the ownership structure, KBK Enterprises LLC created a limited partnership, Wichita RAD Single Family Limited Partnership, to serve as the ownership entity for the RAD project. The Wichita Housing Authority will function as the general partner in this ownership structure. An option for a long-term ground lease gives the Wichita RAD Single Family Limited Partnership the exclusive right and option to lease the property from the Wichita Housing Authority. And this is a requirement when the housing tax credit application is submitted. There's no impact to the general fund. The law department has reviewed and approved the application and ground lease as to form. Today we are asking you to approve the option for ground lease required by KHRC, low-income housing tax credit application between the Wichita Housing Authority and the Wichita RAD Single Family Limited Partnership. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? No one wants to ask if this is totally rad? I know, it's getting late in the day. All right, we'll go out to the public. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. And this just addresses the single family at this point for financing?
That's correct.
Do we have a revenue stream chosen for the multifamily yet?
I don't have that information for you today. I do know that we are, again, coming back to the council in December with an overall presentation of the financial plan for the RAD project.
Maybe I'll bring money back from DC when we talk about the next agenda item.
That would be good.
All right. So if there's no other discussion, I would move that the Wichita Housing Authority Board approve the option for ground lease requirement for the low-income housing tax credit application between the Wichita Housing Authority and the Wichita RAD Single Family LP.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item.
Approval of travel for Mayor Longwell to travel to Washington, D.C. to attend White House roundtables on housing affordability, November 15 through 17, 2018.
So just, I think everyone understands, I have been invited to sit in on a discussion in the White House regarding affordable housing. I think it's going to be an outstanding discussion. I'm looking forward to what might come out of that in terms of potentially policy type issues and maybe some financial implications that could come out of that. So I'm glad that I'm invited to be at the table and looking forward to what might come from that discussion.
Ready to make the motion?
Yeah, I'm ready for you.
Okay. I move that we approve the travel expense.
Second? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Procedure for filling vacancy in City Council District 2.
Mayor, do you want to handle this one?
Yeah, thank you. And we've obviously during the past several years have used a couple of different procedures when we've filled some vacancies from the council. And so I think it's appropriate for us to take a look at what those procedures are. And I'm just going to remind people at this point what that council procedure is going forward, and a suggestion that that's what we continue to have in place as we fill the council seat of Commissioner-elect Councilmember Meitzner. My green sheet says as we happily fill the seat. Maybe that was a late addition. Happily, because we're going to have a great partner across the street that we're looking forward to working with. So let me share and I think you all may have this in the green sheet that spells it out the same way, that the the vacancy in the district will be filled in an expedited manner for the remaining unexpired term of the office ending on December 31st of 2019. A notice of vacancy will be announced during the November 13th City Council meeting today for the position of the City Council member for Council Member District 2 because of the resignation of City Council Member Pete Meitzner. That will be effective, and I don't have the date, but January 12th or something in that.
Yeah, that's what it says.
January 12th. And that December 7th, and this is important, that December 7th of 2018 at 5 p.m. is the deadline for candidate petitions to be filed with the city clerk of the city of Wichita. 5, candidates for the unexpired term of office are nominated by a petition which must contain not less than 100 signatures of qualified electors who reside in the Council District 2. Candidates are encouraged to use the petition form provided by the Sedgwick County Election Office. In addition, once the 100 signatures have been obtained, the petitioner must sign a notarized affidavit to validate the signatures. The city clerk determines the sufficiency of the petitions. Candidates shall meet all of the appropriate qualifications for the city council candidates, including district residency. 6, that we then have the district advisory board for city council district 2 will conduct a public forum within 7 days of December 7th, 2018 to screen all candidates who file a lawful petition for candidacy. District Advisory Board 2 will forward to the City Council in writing the names of the top 5 candidates nominated and presented in alphabetical order. December of 2018 is the date for the City Council members to interview those that are forwarded on the candidates nominated by the District Advisory Board of District 2. And 9, during the regularly scheduled council meeting on December 2018, the remaining members of the City Council, not including Pete Meitzner, will elect by a written ballot a member to fill the temporary term of office expiring on December 31st of 2019. This vote requires a majority vote of 4. The earliest that that temporary member can be sworn into office is January 8th of 2019. And so that kind of spells out what has been in our city council code. We have in the past used that, and in the past we have chosen to replace that with a different selection process. What I'm encouraging us to look at now is to fill that vacancy with that procedure was just spelled out. Are there any questions? Councilmember Blubaugh.
Thank you, Mayor. So January 8th, who will Pete be serving? Councilmember Meitzner be serving, or will this new individual be serving?
Councilmember Meitzner will continue to serve us until his resignation, technically. January 12th.
So it's safe to assume he'll be here making decisions on January 8th?
On January 8th.
Okay.
The earliest.
You said no sooner than.
No sooner than.
January 8th. So
right.
Okay.
Could be sworn in.
So, I think it's been 5 years. I think I was the last one to go through this process. Is there any differences here than when I went through the process? Because I remember going in front of the DABs, but I guess we didn't have
I
5
think,
people, so maybe we all came forward?
Right.
Or?
And so 2 things. I think when we don't have more than 5, then obviously they would all come forward if there's 5 or less. And then I believe we suspended these rules when we had Councilmember Gray fill a short-term interim role.
Well, that was the same time
right.
that I did it.
So we didn't go through those.
I think we did, because I went through the process and wasn't selected.
You get the 100 signatures.
Did you get the 100 signatures?
I went through and got the 100 signatures. He got the 100 signatures. We went through this whole process.
Okay, I was thinking we suspended it.
Did Councilmember Clendenin go through this process?
No, so what I did is I stepped back. There was somebody else that wanted to fill that temporary seat. I believe he still had to get his signatures.
I don't think so.
Mayor, I believe in that case, the council suspended the petition process because it was a very short window.
I just stayed back out of the way. I just wanted to run the election. There were 3 candidates, though, that I know that the council was interviewing for that after they were interviewed by the District Advisory Board.
Yeah, part of it had to deal with the length of time of the interim position.
I'm just looking for consistency to make sure we're doing the same thing.
So
to my knowledge, I think this is the exact same process we used 5 years ago.
So it may have been, if we required you at that point in time.
It's not as easy to get 100 signatures as people think.
I wouldn't admit that. Well, and I think the mayor pointed out, so when the resignation was happening in January and the next election was like April, there was a short window.
Yeah, during a short period is what I mean.
This one allows a year of service for the new replacement.
So at this point in time, I guess this is an agenda item. We can go out if anyone wants to address the council on it. Is there anyone that would like to address the council on this agenda item?
Me again. I just wanted to get some clarification, make sure I wrote it down right. So is it an actual application or is it just an affidavit with 100 signatures?
There is an application online, I believe.
It can be obtained from the city clerk's office, I believe.
So that's with the election office?
No, with the city clerk's office.
Okay. I thought before you said it was at the election office, so the petition form.
The petition form is, but the actual application where you fill out your name and address and all of that is part of the application you can get from the city clerk.
So you need an application from the city clerk, and then they need a nomination form for 100 that you have signatures on that you get from the election office.
Yeah, I think the wording actually is, it's recommended that you use the same form that the election office uses, which I believe you can get that online.
Okay, and is that available now, those two things?
So I think the city clerk may have a copy of that also. So
the nomination form?
Right.
Okay, so if somebody wants to apply, they need to do it by December 7th at 5 p.m. They have to have 100 signatures and a notarized affidavit.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? If there's no other questions, I would move that we initiate the vacancy procedure as set out in the city code, which I then covered in detail.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. The motion passes 7-0. So the clock is ticking. We will, again, hopefully put out some kind of information on city website and potentially Channel 7 where we can encourage those that are interested to apply. Why anyone would want to do this job sometimes is beyond me. Madam Clerk, next item.
Councilmember appointments and comments.
Appointments, comments. I have several appointments to make today. And then maybe a comment. But any others at this point? Let's address the appointments first. So I have 3 reappointments to the Sedgwick County Juvenile Corrections Board: Deanna Carithers, Seth Rundle, and Mary San Martin. And then I have appointments to the Self-Supported Municipal Improvement District Board, and that is Don Sherman, Rod Young, Joe Johnson, John Belford, Richard Honeyman, Jim Faith. And then also need to appoint the following people to the Stormwater Advisory Board: Greg Allison, Chris Bohm, Hoyt Hillman, Don Kirkland, Gary O'Borney, Joe Pager, Jim Webster, and George Sherman. And then I have one appointment to my library board, and that's Axel Chacon. And that's it for my appointments. Any questions? I would move that we approve the appointments as mentioned.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your vote. The motion passes 7-0. And then I just want to mention one thing and give credit to Senator Moran. He invited the Secretary of the Air Force, and we had actually the Undersecretary come to Wichita State University this past week. And there's a great article that you can find online that talks about WSU has the ability to allow Air Force planes to fly longer. And I understand they had a great conversation. You can read some of the remarks by the Undersecretary, and it just emphasizes the uniqueness that we have in aviation right here in Wichita, Kansas, and for the Air Force to recognize what we can do for them in terms of, allowing planes to fly longer, safer, stretch the dollar further, says a lot about the Innovation Campus and NIAR and everything that's going on out there. And we want to publicly thank Senator Moran for making that happen, because it only happened because Senator Moran encouraged the Air Force to pay a visit to the Innovation Campus. And I think that's another special quality that we have in Wichita, Kansas, that makes our community unique and special in so many different ways, that allows us to stand out and grow Wichita, Kansas. And so thank you, Senator Moran, for making that happen, and thank you to the Innovation Campus for the uniqueness and special qualities that you possess to make Wichita truly a special place. And at that, do we have an executive session?
Yep.
So we're not done yet. We have an executive session that they're saying only will take 20 minutes, actually 2 executive sessions, 10 minutes each, and that the City Council, and I will go through this again because legal loves it when I read verbatim, that I move that the City Council recess into executive session for 20 minutes to receive information and advice on a personal injury lawsuit and a breach of contract lawsuit pursuant to KSA 75-4319, parentheses B, parentheses 2, for legal consultation with the city attorney, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, for pending litigation, and for legal advice, and that this executive session is required to protect attorney-client privilege and the public interest. And we will resume the meeting back in these chambers no earlier than 11:50.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. All right, motion passes 7-0.